The idea of having your own business, being an entrepreneur, I was just like, I don't want that ever. Horsepower, yes, that's great. 400, 500. As far as I'm concerned, what are you gonna do with that? During that 4 months, I was basically jobless, living at my cousin's house. But I want you to remember, what they don't have is this. My name is Izu Akpara. Everybody calls me Dr. O for short. I am the founding member, owner, medical director, and CEO of Omni Wound Physicians, which is a mobile wound care practice. I am part of the Fast Lane Drive LA chapter. This is my second year, but I attend all of the events, and I have 2022 Aston Martin Vantage F1 edition. I'm the last of 6 kids. My father was a physician. My mother was a registered nurse. I have 5 other siblings. 2 of them are physicians. So just kind of expected that that's what I was going to do. But coincidentally, my dad actually did not want me to be a physician. So in high school, he pushed me towards engineering. And I actually went into college, University of Houston in downtown, as an engineering major. And after the first or 2 semesters of physics, I was terrible at that. So I switched back to biology and coasted through college. The amount of time physicians are supposed to be spending with their patients and dealing with all of that bureaucracy, and then seeing me wanting to get into that. We actually had frank conversations. My dad has passed away now in 2018, and he said, son, this is not as glamorous as you think it is. It's a lot of nonsense. Do something else. It is very rare that you would see a parent, especially a parent of immigrants, push their son away or their child away from things like being a doctor or being a lawyer, but he actively pushed me away from it. Today, I would say that when I have kids, obviously I would let them choose whatever they want to do, but I would not encourage them to be physicians. So yes, he was correct. I wanted to be an eye surgeon. The idea of having your own business, being an entrepreneur, I was just like, I don't want that ever. I just want to work, do my job, go home, and rest. You fast forward to where I am now, that's actually what I ended up doing. Medicine is very competitive. Getting into medical school is challenging, and by your 3rd or 4th year, you're supposed to kind of know what kind of doctor you want to be. I knew I wanted to go into general surgery. I did the first year in Houston. I did the second year in Southern California here at Harbor UCLA. After those 2 years, it was such a competitive industry, and I was also very stressful. There was nothing available for me to do to move on to the 3rd year. I packed up all my stuff and I moved back to Houston. During that 4 months, I was basically jobless, living at my cousin's house. I had in my possession a Honda S2000, so my passion for cars is already showing there, that I got as a gift from one of my older brothers. My cat's little box and my carry-on. That's all I had on me. I took a job that I had in high school as a delivery driver, going around delivering people's food. I think I was making at that point like $8 an hour. I didn't care. At least I had some money. I did that for about 2 to 3 weeks. I had a plan of what to do. Contact this guy, go do some research, reapply the following year, and hopefully get a position. And then 3 years, maybe become a doctor. And then I got a call from block number. At that point in my life, I was answering every phone call. So I answered, and it was a surgeon that had a mobile wound care practice. I don't know where he found my information, but he called me and said, hey, I'm looking for surgeons to join my practice. Told me all about it. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. Is it in Texas? He's like, no, it's in California. The position is open for 2 weeks. You can take it if you want it. And I hung up the phone and I thought about it. I was like, okay, I just gotta go see what this thing is all about. So I grabbed my carry-on suitcase, my cat, got back in my S2K, and I drove right back to California. Within the first 1.5 to 2 years of working there, I became basically unofficially second in command. Anybody that he wanted to hire for his practice had to go through me. Then after a while, I was like, I think I can do this by myself. On August of 2016, I opened up my own practice and I just had one person. Patients are used to going to the clinic to see their doctor and then you go home. This patient population is bedbound. people who can't really ambulate easily, walk around, get around. He took that concept and flipped it upside down. Let's go to them, treat them, and then they don't have to come to clinic. And we continue to see them on a weekly basis until all the wounds are healed. So I was like, okay, I can do this. I would drive anywhere at that point. And then with time, it just got to be too much for one person. And then I hired someone, and then we built that up. You fast forward to 224, I don't see patients anymore. I just manage the practice. And also, I am a founding partner of a management service organization with a brilliant partner who is also an engineer and an entrepreneur in Houston. I had to start coming up with new ways to be effective to our patients, to the market, to my competition. We needed an administrative team. So I'm sitting here interviewing people. I'm looking at resumes and like, okay, your resume looks good. I don't know how to interview people. There were a few bad hires. I actually do cherish those experiences now because where I am today, I have learned so much. You know, what you see on paper doesn't really mean anything. How to really take that and have interviews, ask them specific questions, really gauge their ability to answer and see if they're in line with your vision. It's helped a lot more. For me, it's like having an idea for something, an idea that solves a problem. There's lots of problems that always arise. Okay, this happened, this happened, this happened. Let's figure out a solution for this today. But then let's figure out a solution to prevent this from happening again. But then if they do happen, we already have a plan to deal with it in a way that it doesn't affect us and more importantly, doesn't affect the people that we serve. The show must go on. The things that I want to accomplish in this lifetime. Sometimes I feel like maybe I'm a little bit crazy because the stuff that I want is too futuristic. It's too out of this time. But it's just always thinking of like the best thing, the next thing. Because I usually attack things with, okay, this is a problem I see. Let's figure out a solution. I approach life that way most of the time. What's the phrase? Imitation is the biggest form of flattery, right? I found my competitors basically copying everything that we're doing. I always tell my team members, guys, don't worry that they're copying us. Like, that means that we're doing something right. But I want you to remember what they don't have is this. In my industry, healthcare, probably like every 2 to 3 months, something changes. So you cannot get complacent. So what we did last year is not going to work this year. So you have to get something that impacts patients' lives in a positive way, but makes the system more cost efficient. A lot of people come into it thinking, oh, it's super easy. I'm just going to go in there, slap a bunch of stuff on patients and get a bunch of money. In the 8 years that I've been doing this, I have seen several companies open and close, and that is including the guy I worked for. The other business that I created is called MSO. MSO stands for Management Service Organization. And I created MSO.ai to infuse artificial intelligence into all of these administrative processes to make the workflows, operations much more efficient, faster, precise, and then lift that burden off our providers, our physicians. We want to revolutionize healthcare management, lead it. I would say identify a niche that is not overcrowded. It doesn't matter how difficult it is. Or identify a niche, figure out where there's a need and stick with it and push and be the best at it. If you're doing things right and if you have the right mindset, goals, tenacity, grit, with time, you find yourself at the top. As a kid playing video games in Nigeria, I played the Harp series. It was 2 people playing. I guess maybe they were playing the computer and they couldn't beat it. And I was like, let me try. I mean, I didn't get it right the first time, but the second time I got what they needed. They're like, how the hell did you do that? And then there was a second time my best friend and his friend in Houston were playing Gran Turismo. It was one of those qualifying lap thingies and they couldn't. I told him, I was like, hey, why don't we try driving it in manual? How are you going to be able to do that? It's better for the computer to just shift for you. I was like, let's just try. And I did it. And then on the 3rd try, I beat it. And he looked at me like, what the f***? And ever since then, I just kind of got into it. I played Gran Turismo. That was my favorite. I bought all of them. Slowly kind of got into Supercars. April of 2022. I was between the Vantage and the DB11. Normally when I buy cars, I'll do a lot of research online, read about it, watch videos, get all that stuff, narrow it down to two. Then I'll go and test drive them. I test drove the Vantage first, got on the freeway. Then I took the DB11 and we didn't even get onto the on-ramp to get onto the freeway. And I was like, this is not it. We don't need to test drive this one. And he looked at me, he's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, I'm sure. The other one was more agile, handle, aggressive. I could feel the road. This one just kind of felt like I was in a, sorry, DB11. I was in a Ford Crown Victoria. Like it just felt very cruisy. And he's like, you know what? That's actually pretty accurate. This is more for cruising, for like older people that just want to drive. This is more for the younger folk. What you liked. Obviously, with my obsession with James Bond movies, his car of choice was always an Aston Martin. The thing about Aston Martin cars is that they look like street cars and still have supercar abilities. As opposed to like, Lambos that just look like slammed, very sharp angles, doors open up, and you can't really drive it much of anywhere, or you might mess up your bumper or something might break. It made me more of an Aston boy. Even though there's no Aston Martin in it that I remember. It would be Gone in 60 Seconds with Nicolas Cage and Angelina Jolie. I love that Mustang. I wish I could find it so I could just buy it or at least drive it for like a week. There's a Gran Turismo movie that came out recently, right? I actually liked that a lot. A lot of people said it sucked, but I thought it was great. And then Ford vs Ferrari was also really, really good. The most modification I've made to my Vantage, I actually went on a ride with Francois here. I was following him. We got lost. He was driving the green Urus. He pulled away and I could not catch him. And I was trying. And I was in my car. I was not in a loaner. So I knew how to drive it. It felt like to me, like the tires were like almost like basketballs. It's just like, I'm like, there's no grip on this thing. After that, I asked one of the Galpin guys, I'm like, hey, is there any better tire that I could put on this for better grip? And he was like, yeah, there is. What's wrong with your tire? He looked at it. He's like, there's still a lot of tire life in there. I'm like, I don't care. And when I got the Michelin 4S, changed them all four of them. And immediately I pulled out of the little shop. It was night and day. And it's been like that ever since. My first car was a 98 Corolla stick shift, and I've named all my cars. Toyota Corolla was Mary Beth. Then I got the Honda S2000 for my brother. That was Sasha. Then I got Lexus IS 350 F Sport. That was Maxine. Then I got the Model X. That's Electra. Then I got a Model 3 Tesla. These are all performance, and that was Sinbad. And then now I got the Aston Martin Green Lady Jade. In all of them, what mattered to me the most was chassis, handling, stability on the road, on the corners. Horsepower, yes, that's great. 400, 500. Anything beyond 550 or 600 is overkill. As far as I'm concerned, what are you going to do with that? Unless you're on the track. I like fast lane drive because it's a combination of a lot of things. Every fast lane drive event that I've ever attended, there's always an hour and a half to 2 hour drive. And then you hang out with, the group of friends and all the different events, the food, and it's just well put together. So I love that about fast lane drive. Made a bunch of friends, cool friends that I can call, hit up to go hang out. And I've actually utilized about 2 businesses in my practice. And honestly, I like hearing the success stories of other people and seeing what other people do. Just hearing all of the different ideas, entrepreneurs, professionals, attorneys, people who are successful and doing it well, and at the same time not being cocky about what they're doing or looking down on others is kind of been more inspirational. It's humbling and inspiring. So I just want to present to you my 2022 Aston Martin Vantage F1 edition. It's in this satin matte green. The brake calipers are neon yellow and matches up with the stitching on the seats. Quite sophisticated, not too crazy. It's got a nice huge wing, beautiful diffuser. The exhaust is amazing. And I believe these are 21s or 22s. And then the only thing that I've really done to this car in terms of modifications is I got the Michelin 4S 4 tires. I love the back of it. It just looks so aggressive. It has a wide hip and its stance is so solid. What I've noticed in a lot of the supercars that I've driven, when you try to take off, it kind of like fishtails a little bit and people will tend to get out of control, and that's when you see those crazy wrecks that happen. But with this, every time I've done something stupid in it, it took it and delivered it perfectly. I just credit that to the wonderful engineering. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen to my story. This one is definitely a keeper, and there will be many more like it. And I got to work a lot harder to keep that going. And I'll see you guys at the next event.